You guys seeing that? Hey, what's going on everybody? Alex here with Freedom Mowers. I hope you all are doing well. Today is the day we are going to be starting on our $0 or free push mower fix and flip challenge. Pretty excited for this. Basically what we're going to be trying to do is take this push mower that I got from a guy at the dump that was getting ready to throw this out, and I saw this push mower in the back of his truck before he got over to the can. I asked him if maybe I could take a swing at trying to fix this thing, and he said absolutely, it was going in the trash anyways. So our goal is going to be trying to get this fixed up and looking as good and running as good as possible, and try to flip this machine, see what we can get out of it. And we're going to try to buy another machine and keep doing the same thing, fix and flip, until we can make, I think we're just going to try to go for $2,000. We're going to see if we can take this free mower and turn it into $2,000. What we are working with here is a Troy-Bilt TB230. You know, seems to be, I mean, this is a pretty nice mower if everything is functional on it and working. It is a front wheel drive, self-propelled Troy-Bilt. It has the Briggs & Stratton Quantum on it. This is the 725EX 190cc. I do have the other hubcap for it. We have the variable drive on the self-propelled portion, so basically the harder you squeeze on this handle, the quicker it will go. But you guys can see this thing definitely has put in some work. It's pretty crusty. So initially I did check, make sure it at least had oil in it, and I did just pull the rope on it just to make sure it had compression. Feels like it's got both. So I would say the first thing we'll do, we'll double check this oil. I'm gonna put y'all on the tripod. I'll go ahead and loosen up the air box. We're gonna put some starter fluid in there and see if this thing will kick over. If it does, I'd say let's just go ahead and go through the whole fuel system on it, and then we can just start taking everything from there. So just pulling the stick out, there's almost nothing on there. If you guys can see that or not, but there is just enough to touch the tip of the dipstick on there. So this thing is pretty low on oil. Hopefully that hasn't caused any damages. All right, so we're just gonna test to see if this thing's gonna kick over. So I'm not quite worried about the oil or causing any issues, just with a quick pop over if it does. Wow. You guys seeing that? Rough. It is so caked in here too. All right, well, I've got a little bottle of some gas here. You can use starter fluid, whatever your preference. We'll just put a little splash in there and see if we can get this thing to pop off on us. Definitely sputtered a little bit. See if we can get that, give it a little more gas this time. Take a few more pulls, I'm sure. All right, well, kicked over for us. One other thing you can do as well, we're gonna test this theory. People always want to know if the self-propelled works on it. Well, you can pull the self-propelled handle and pull the rope. You don't even have to start it. It should let you know if it's working or not. Yeah, those wheels are pulling. So, you know, within a minute, we already know that we should have enough spark compression to run. Just need, I'm sure, fuel system on here, and the front wheels do seem to be pulling. So let's go ahead, get this thing in the shop and take this carb and fuel system apart and see if we can actually get this thing up and running. We'll also get some good oil in there. All right, and one of the first things I like to do if I'm going to be working on push mower is I like to go ahead and disconnect the spark plug. That way there's no chance of this thing starting on us. We will go ahead and take a quick peek at the blade on here. Let's see if I can bring it over to the side. So our blade is definitely worn, but not totally destroyed. Hopefully not bent. We'll find that out a little more once we can hopefully get this thing up and running. So let me get y'all here on the tripod. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off the top cover here. It's just 2 Phillips screws. Give us a little better access to everything. Now this machine has the auto choke system on it. So basically off from the fan blades on the flywheel, that moves this arm right here, and that actually moves the choke back and forth. So we will go ahead and start taking this carburetor apart. Doesn't look too bad. Alright, so we are going to get started taking all the carb apart on here. It's actually been a while since I worked on a push mower, so we should have, what, 3? Is it 2? I think 2 5/16 on this. That takes our front cover off. Pull that piece off. We have a gasket there on the front. Just the crankcase breather tube will detach off from the housing. And then, is this a 5/16? Or that one's a 1/4 inch on the top. So this 1/4 inch will, that will remove our auto choke system. We can actually just leave that right off to the side for now. And then we need to take our fuel hose, which I actually didn't even check. This tank is bone dry, so hopefully it's not cracked or leaking. But we gotta take our fuel hose off, and then we just have 2 3/8 bolts that need to come out, and then we can slide the whole carburetor off. Get that fuel clamp off. See if I can get my 3/8 in there with this little 1/4 inch extension. And those come right out, and we should be able to go ahead and pull that. So now we have our little spring here that just attaches for the governor. Now I can see if I can get that fuel line loose, and then we can just get this over that Z-bend. Alright, drop it down, turn it out, and that's all there is to it, getting that carb off. We still got our O-ring on the intake tube there. So let's get this over and start taking the carb apart. Alright, and to get this carb apart, we just have 1 1/2 inch bolt on the bottom, which is actually our main jet as well. You'll see when we get this apart. We'll see how rough this carb looks on here. Oh yeah, this thing is full. It looks green in there from the gas. There we go. I'm trying to be careful not to rip this O-ring. I'm just gonna get a little flat head just to get it off from there. That way hopefully we can reuse it if it's not too bad. Alright, we are in there. You guys can see, pretty yucky. Definitely smells like starting to turpentine. And it looks like our needle and seat might be swollen on here as well, because it's actually supposed to sit parallel with the carburetor, and you can see that it's sitting upward here. A lot of times that happens when gas gets really old. The seat will actually swell. It won't allow it to go down enough, so the mower might start because it's letting enough fuel into the bowl, just barely enough to let it just start for a second, but there's not enough fuel in the actual bowl to be able to pick it up into the mower and keep running. So that happens quite often too. If you can see it or not, but there's like an orange or red rubber seat in there, and most likely when they get swollen like that, it's really hard for it to let fuel through as well, because the hole that it goes through into the carburetor is almost closed up. So alright, so unfortunately I do not have a rebuild kit here. I think there's a place down the road here that actually still has a lot of older equipment rebuild kits. I'm gonna try to go tomorrow morning to get that, but in the meantime I'm gonna try to at least get a lot of the stuff cleaned up. You guys can see that I'm getting this to at least push through now from that side of the jet. Now this is just a bread tie from a loaf of bread. This thing is clogged up. Alright, we got those holes opened up on here. I'm just gonna pop this in the ultrasonic cleaner and go ahead and get this thing basically all set. I was able to clean out that rubber seat a little bit. It was just as gummy as everything here. And I did check, I just kind of blew through the inlet where the fuel comes through, and everything seems fine. I did end up slightly bending the tab on the float. That way it sits nice and level, but we should be able to get plenty of gas supplied through there, and it seems like it's going to seal. So we're going to go ahead and just put the carburetor back together on here. I got everything pretty clean. I ran it through the ultrasonic cleaner a couple times. Bowl's nice and clean. And also the main jet on here, that brass jet, I got all that cleaned up as well. And that thing was super gummed up. We'll go ahead and get this all reassembled. Put our needle on. Get that set into place. I'll show you guys what I was talking about too with the float height. So you guys can see that's almost parallel now, and that's going to allow us to get enough fuel into the bottom of this carburetor bowl for this main jet to draw up into the carburetor. So one of the things that I like to do is with our ring here on the bottom, especially on the older ones, I have some marine grease, and what I will do is I will just put a little bit of just a thin layer of this marine grease on this O-ring, and that is going to help kind of rehydrate it and help our bowl seal on there as well, because sometimes when you take these apart, they're a little bit hard to get to seal back up without a new one. And then I can go ahead and take the bowl, press that back into place, get our little O-ring back onto the jet, and then we'll just get this all tightened back up. You guys don't really need to see me tightening this all back up, but I'll go ahead and put this back on the mower, and then we are going to add some gas and see, well, we need to put some oil in there as well, and we're going to see if this thing's going to fire up and run for us. Alright, and I've got the carburetor bolted back up. Wanted to make sure that our choke was back moving freely again. And before I hook up the gas line on here, I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is we will put a little pan underneath. Yeah, see, just turning that down, you guys can see some of the gas that was in there. So I want to flush that out. The tank was dry, but I think there was just a little bit in the line. So we're just gonna dump what I had in there, and that's gonna help us just flush out anything that was in the gas line or anything sitting at the bottom of the tank, because we just got that carburetor clean. We don't need to be adding a bunch of crud in there. We should be good. I can just go ahead and hook up the fuel line, and I will top off a little bit of oil. I'm just gonna put a little bit of used oil in here, just so we can kind of just check everything. We'll get it warmed up, and then we'll do a fresh oil change as long as everything's running good. Our float seems to be holding, and I guess we'll go ahead and give it a whirl. Can you guys see good enough? I did top off the oil with some used stuff. Not shutting off though. Well, success. It runs, it doesn't turn off. We'll get that fixed. It looks like it's possibly where the connection is to that that ground wire that will kill the spark. Sweet. I was actually expecting this to be smoking a bit because there was so much crud in that air box. I figured a lot of it went by and maybe the cylinder was a bit wore out. But so far it seems good. I guess we'll go ahead and we'll pop that top shroud off and see what's going on. See if we can get a good connection on the ground wire, unless we can get to it from right here, but probably be easier just to go ahead and take this plate off. We should just have these two on the front. There's what, 3 5/16, and then there's 2 more 3/8 that are on the back side underneath of the gas tank, and then we should be able to take everything loose and pull that shroud up. So let me get y'all set up and we'll take that off. Well, we're making good progress. The front wheel, the self-propel seems like it's working pretty good. We'll go ahead and take those 5/16 out. If I can put the right socket here on my impact. There's those 3. And pull that shroud back now. 4 3/8. Alright, now with all those removed, we should actually, it's going to pull the dipstick out too, so we need 1 more 5/16. It's been a while since I've done these. I'm a little rusty. Mainly work on mostly riding mowers, which is what we're trying to work up to when we can get a couple of these push mowers sold. So we've got, we'll just kind of pull that up, move it off to the side. Now we can see what we got going on here. And so this one does have the heat There's like a little coil inside this piece right here that when it heats up, it'll turn the choke off. It looks like we just have a lot of corrosion right here on this wire, so let me go ahead. I'm gonna get something, maybe a little piece of sandpaper, and we'll kind of scuff this stuff up. I'll show you how it works. Pull the lever here. So when you pull the lever, this arm right here rotates out of the way. When it comes back, when you let go of the lever, it touches this arm right here, which contacts the ground wire, and that's all it does. It just grounds it out. And then we also have our flywheel brake too. So once you move that, the brake opens up. So when you let go of that baling handle on here, this brake applies to the flywheel as well as a ground to the coil. So let me get a couple of tools and we'll get this fixed. Alright, so the first thing I did was I pulled the baling handle back, and I cleaned off that arm a little bit with the brush. But we're just gonna give this just a little scuff down here. Honestly, that should have it fixed. We'll see. That should be pretty much it. I'm gonna spray a little PV plaster on here. I'm gonna blow some compressed air around in the housing, get everything cleaned up. And then you guys saw how this came off, so I'll get it bolted back down, and then we'll test it again and see if this thing's gonna turn off. Awesome. So we're making good progress here. We got this thing up and running, stopping. Self-propel works pretty good. There's still a fair amount of tread on those front wheels. So I would say our next order of business is to let this run for 3-4 minutes, get that oil nice and warmed up, and then we'll go ahead and do an oil change on here. All right, well, I had that running for about 5 minutes and it shut right down for me again, no problem. I'm gonna go ahead and get this oil dumped out. That is some nasty looking oil. Yeah, it looks really bad, if you guys can see. Definitely does not look like it was changed anytime in the last, probably since it was new. Alright, that table was getting a little wobbly on me. I did get the oil changed out, but I do want to go ahead and get the blade sharpened on here as well. So I've just got just a breaker bar, and I'll go ahead and take that plug wire back off again, since we're going to be rotating the engine a little bit. This one is a 5/8. Just got to take that one bolt loose on the bottom. And I'm trying to show you guys, you can do all this stuff in your backyard. You can do it with minimum tools and get plenty of work done. Overall, I mean, the blade still has its shape. The little lift wings here on the back are still in fair shape. They're not totally worn out. It definitely has a bit of wear, but we are trying to do all this stuff budget friendly. I'm gonna get set up with my angle grinder and a flap disc, and we're gonna go ahead and get this edge nice and sharpened up, and this should be good, at least probably get through a season. And the way that I sharpen the blades, because I don't have one of those fancy sharpeners, and I don't really like those little stones that you can put on a drill. This flap disc is a little worn out, but normally a 60 or 80. And what you'll do is there's already an angle that these are sharpened at to begin with. I like to just follow that angle and just make a few passes, see how everything looks. Sometimes if there's dings, you can take it down a little farther, and then try to do about the same on the other side. And then I do have one of those little balancers that will check, but I usually like to check at the beginning too, just so I know if there's already an issue with balance. So if I need to take off more on one side than the other. See this blade? Yeah, this blade's already balanced. So we'll try to take it off evenly. We'll just put a nice edge on it, and then we can just pop this right back on. Should be good to go. All right, well, I got that blade on and balanced. Seems to be good to go. The one thing that I do know we are gonna have to purchase for this is a air filter, which I can probably get up at the store for about $10 or $15. So that is gonna go into our price of what we make off from this at the end. So basically should hopefully be only about $15 in the hole on this. Yeah, I really want to include all of the prices of parts and things like that. Now the oil, I mean, this took 20 ounces of oil. I mean, you can put in some 10W30. A lot of people just have oil sitting around the house, and we sharpen the blade, clean the carb. So basically everything on here other than time was free so far. But let me get this cleaned up and we'll get back in the shop and basically start to finish this machine up. All right, well, I got this thing all pressure washed up and it is looking pretty darn good. I wanted to show you guys, I did start a bit on doing some of the automatic transmission fluid, just kind of wipe down that I normally do on most of my machines. I just put it on a towel and just give it a good wipe, let it set for a bit, and then wipe that back down so it's not all greasy. But you guys can see it really brings back the shine on the plastics. You can see the difference here on that upper shroud versus where I have not done it yet. It's just a bit faded, but it really gives a good shine and a good look back to the machine. All right, guys, well, next day I just got back from Tractor Supply, picked up a new OEM filter for it, part number 5043 for the Briggs Quantum style engines. And as we could see, that original filter was toast on here. Now it was actually it was $14 for the filter after tax. So all things considered, I think we've got about $20 in here between the oil change and just a little bit of gas. So we'll basically say that, you know, we are minus $20 on this machine right now, but I'm hoping that we should be able to sell this for about $120. I'm just going to finish putting the airbox on. I did just finish cleaning this out as well. So everything's nice and fresh. We've got a sharp blade on here, new oil, we're going to have a new air filter, and hopefully this thing will start and run first pull every time for the next owner. So let me finish buttoning up this airbox. We're going to take it outside, take a look at it, test it out, and I think we already have our next mower for part 2. So let me get this finished up and we'll check it out outside. And this thing is looking night and day difference from what it did when we originally got it. I feel like we ought to be able to get $120 for this mower. We've gone through, made sure everything is sound on here. We're going to go ahead and give this thing a nice cold start for today, just double check. But I think we should be in pretty good shape. Get you guys set up here on the tripod. All right. We're hoping for one pull. All right, well, this mower turned out pretty darn good. I'm surprised. I think we should be able to, since we've got $20 invested in it, we should hopefully be able to sell this for $120, which is going to put us at $100 left over. Now, I did have a buddy the other day that came by and he actually dropped off a free riding mower. I'm hoping you guys will kind of accept this deal. We could go and basically take our $100 and definitely find another push mower, but you guys will see in a minute. This is going to be a bit of a challenge. It was in one of my shorts recently, and it is a Boland's 38-inch cut riding mower that's been sitting for I don't know how many years, but it is in rough shape. So let's jump over there. I'm gonna give you guys a quick preview on it, and that should be for our next one. So we'll take the $100 hopefully from this one. which I'll show you guys probably the sale in the next video, and we'll have at least a little bit of spending money to put into this riding mower, which hopefully we'll be able to turn around and make $300 to $400 off from and keep the ball rolling. So let's go check it out. All right, I'll give you guys a quick preview on this. I have not even looked at it other than the other day making that little shorts with it. It has 2 front tires that are off the bead. I know that the deck is all bent in, and the piece that connects the front of the deck is all broke off there, so this thing's gonna have to be pulled out, re-welded. Apparently this ran when parked, but we all know how that goes. 15.5 horse Intech, single cylinder. That's about it. That's all I know on it. Sure, the battery. I think I did look at the battery. Yeah, we've got a battery from 2017 in it. So you guys can see this thing looks like it got pulled out of a swamp. So I really appreciate you guys checking out the channel, and hopefully you guys are going to like this challenge. We're going to go for hopefully $2,000 trying to make on a fix and flip, and we definitely have some challenges ahead of us. So on that note, let freedom ring, let those small engines sing. I'll see you all in the next one.